Hello, I'm Alan Rachko, Chief Special Investigator in the Consumer Protection Unit of the Delaware Department of Justice. Thank you for joining us for National Consumer Protection Week. In this session, you will hear from 3 speakers who will explain several scams we are seeing and ways to avoid them. Our speakers are Mike Lawson, the Vice President of Security and Loss Prevention for Artisans Bank. Before working at Artisans Bank, Mike had a long and illustrious career with the Wilmington Police Department. We have John Bell, the Director of Business Relations and Outreach for the Delaware Better Business Bureau, and Deputy Attorney General Marion Quirk. Marion is the unit head of the Consumer Protection Unit here at the Delaware Department of Justice. Mike, we'll start with you. Please explain to us about wire fraud and check fraud.
Thank you, Alan, and thank you for having me today. Before I start, I just wanted to say a disclaimer as far as the opinions expressed in the publication are my own opinions and do not represent my employer's view in any way. So regarding wire fraud, this is a topic that is being discussed throughout the banking industry. Wire transfer fraud has dramatically increased throughout the recent years, especially since the onset of the pandemic. Cyber criminals use business email compromise when they target employers. What they will do is send an email that looks similar to an email coming from another staff member, possibly your CEO, your boss, a supervisor, and they'll ask you to do certain things as far as making transfers. The best way to prevent that from happening or preventing any kind of fraud from happening is to make sure you diligently check the email sent from. These emails look very similar to the email where your supervisor, your boss, your CEO may have, but they could be one character or one number or one letter off. Always pick up the phone and call your supervisor or call that person that you believe it's coming from to make sure they actually sent the request to transfer any kind of funds. Confirming all wiring instructions in person or by phone is the best way to handle these types of requests. Never, ever email your financial information. The bank will never ask you to confirm that information by sending it by email or by asking it over the phone. The reason why is because the bank already has that information. We will confirm other information, such as your personal information or your social security number, which we have as well. If you're giving your financial information over the web, make sure the site is secure. Make sure it's a HTTPS with an S on the end. The S is for the secured site. If it does not have the S on the end, then it may not be the best of your interest to send information through that website. So contact the provider and make sure it's a secured site that you're sending it to. One tip is that you can always contact your bank. You can contact them by Googling the information and calling the bank directly. All banks have 1-800 toll-free numbers that you can call, or you can stop by a local branch and have a discussion with the branch manager or the staff at hand. Always be cautious when opening attachments and downloading files from emails, regardless who sent them. It could have malware or a type of virus that could affect your computer. And once that information is on your computer, the fraudsters will have access to your online banking and other information that could lead to fraud. Always keep your operating system safe and your browser and security software up to date. Another important topic that we're seeing is check fraud. Check fraud is something that's been around since the 13th century. It started in Italy and it's been around now. We're seeing it more prevalent with the Postal Service. If you're mailing checks, please make sure you drop off your mail before the post office closes. Fraudsters have access to keys that open up the blue boxes at the Postal Service, and they're actually diving to get your checks through the mail. So make sure you're looking at your checks that go out and check your account to make sure they're being cleared and getting processed in a timely manner. If the check hasn't been processed within a week, you should probably call the person you sent it to make sure they've received it and it hasn't been intercepted.
Great. Thanks, Mike. Hey, I have one question. When someone wires money, what's the time frame to call it back?
That's a great question, Alan. So there really is no time frame, but the quicker that you can contact the bank to try and retrieve those funds, the better for you. Sending a wire is like sending cash. The fraudster is diligent on their end, and they're waiting for those funds to be transferred to the account that you just transferred it to. So the quicker you can try and retrieve it as fraud, the better you stand a chance of getting those funds back. But usually the funds are gone within a matter of a day or two, as the fraudster wants to get that money out as quickly as possible so the victim cannot retrieve those funds back.
Great, thanks. John, please tell us about the tech support pop-up scams people get on their computers.
Absolutely. Better Business Bureau gets a lot of questions about tech support pop-up scams. And thank you to the Attorney General's office for hosting a roundtable to discuss some of these common scams that we're seeing. So a tech support scam appears when you're browsing on your internet. It could be news or entertainment. It could be social media, but it's a pop-up on your computer that indicates that a virus has been found. Something really nasty too, that's going to destroy all of your files. It's going to go ahead and lock up your computer. It's going to be a huge issue, except somebody has detected it for you. And they sometimes claim that they're Microsoft that's detected it. Sometimes they say it's Dell, Norton. Doesn't matter. It is a pop-up that indicates that a virus has been detected and somebody, some guardian angel has found and stopped that virus, but you need to call them to help them remove it from your system. Now, these pop-ups are really annoying. A lot of them have a loud beeping that can go on for an interminable period of time. Sometimes they have a pop-up that you can't close. There's no way to X out of it. There's no way to get rid of it. And they indicate right in the text of the pop-up that if you were to close your window, that's as good as deleting your files, right? That if you don't call this number to have Microsoft or Dell or whoever the experts are that have identified the virus, if you don't call them, then all is lost. But if you call them, you're actually calling the scammers. And the scammers are going to ask you and be very, very helpful in helping you download a software to let them access your computer remotely. They're going to direct you to download something like LogMeIn or TeamViewer or GoToAssist. And they're going to tell you that this is the only way that you can clean your machine is by having one of their technicians access your computer and cleanse it of this virus that had been detected by their oh so helpful service, which you might not even realize was being provided. When you give them that access to your computer, though, you are giving them the keys to the kingdom. If you download those softwares and then let the scammer log into your computer, yeah, they'll absolutely get rid of the pop-up, but that was never really a problem in the first case. And now the scammer's got access to all of your files. They've got access to looking at your personal information. They can go ahead and install malware on your computer. It is a world of problems that you have signed yourself up for. And the scammer usually charges you for the privilege. You know, they're representing that they're doing tech support, so they're going to charge you $50 to $300 for clearing your machine of the virus that prompted the problem in the first case. So you've gone ahead and paid a scammer to install malware on your system. It's awful. We see these scams happening quite a bit here in Delaware. The best way to protect yourself is to be a little bit more skeptical. When you see these pop-ups, they're going to give you a number and they're going to tell you that Microsoft or Dell has identified that they've got this problem. Well, if it's your computer, well, maybe you can use your phone to Google a phone number for Norton or for McAfee or for Dell or for Microsoft. Figure out on your own how to contact those organizations to see if this is legitimate or not. Also, the payment types that they ask for could be big red flags. A lot of times scammers tell you that they require you to pay with gift cards or Bitcoin or other means that are big red flags. There is zero chance that Microsoft requires payment by gift card to do a service like this. So again, you've got to be on the lookout for these scams. You've got to understand how they work and how they manipulate people. Generally, the best advice is to make sure you keep your browser up to date, make sure you run an antivirus on your system, and be aware that this is happening here in Delaware.
Great. What should someone do if their computer is affected after they receive one of these pop-ups?
Well, that's a great question. And considering how to back out of a problem once you've already given scammers access to your computer, the only way at that point is to take your computer to a professional and have them run a check and an overview to disentangle the scammer from whatever they've done, because they could install backdoors, they can install malware, they could have all sorts of things that they've done to your computer that you'd never ever see. So take it to a professional. But if you don't engage, if you don't ever call the scammer, or if you don't download those softwares and give them access, you usually aren't in any danger. They're going to represent that there's a virus, but again, they're just trying to scare you into taking action. But if you do take those actions and you do download those softwares and give them access, one, you want to make sure to take your computer to a professional. And two, if you paid by a credit card or bank account information, you may need to contact your financial institution and let them know that that's compromised now too. Thanks for the question.
Good. Thanks, John. Marion, can you explain the romance scams and how they lure you into sending money?
Sure, Alan. The typical romance scam is this. You develop a relationship with somebody you've never met in person through an online dating app or social networking site. Those romance scammers are very commonly creating a profile that is a completely fake name, or they could take on the identity of an actual real person. Very quickly, the romance scammers will suggest you move from the platform you met on to communicate more privately. That could be email, text, phone. You never meet the romance scammer. That is one of the key components here. There's always a reason why they can't meet in person. They'll cancel plans at the last minute. Very often they'll say they're working outside the US. A typical scam is somebody that's on an oil rig outside of the US or on a military base outside the US, but you've never met them in person. And over time, they work to gain your trust, and they will always ask you for money. And like other scams, there's a sense of urgency, tugs at your heart because you want to help somebody that you have developed a relationship with. They'll need money, you name it. There's a plane ticket that's needed. They're unable to access their bank account. They need money for emergency medical expenses for themselves or somebody else. The romance scammers will give you very specific instructions on how to get money to them. Could be by wire, could be by gift card. We see a lot of gift card scams in Delaware where people are asked to go to numerous stores to buy gift cards. Give the romance scammers essentially the PIN codes on the back. Money transfer apps are always popular as well, Zelle or PayPal, and cryptocurrency. These scammers want your money by a means that makes it very hard to get your money back. We see these romance scams in Delaware all the time, and the victims are all ages. Interesting statistics from the FTC. In 2022, in the US, close to 70,000 people reported being a victim of a romance scam, with a total loss of $1.3 billion. That's a lot of money. The average median reported loss was about $4,000. These are just the reported numbers. 40% of people who are a victim of a romance scam said that contact started on social media. 19% said their contact was initiated on a website or app. There's some tips to avoid becoming a victim of a romance scam. You start communicating with somebody online, you have the name of the person, do some searching, do some digging. Very often scammers, this isn't their first time scamming, and people will post information about the scammer. So you might be able to uncover it through your own diligence. Image searching. Very often the scammers are using a fake image. There are ways that you can do searches on the internet through Google or other services to check the picture. Does the image, the picture match with the name? If it doesn't, that's sure a telltale sign that this person is a scammer. It's real important also to talk to friends and family, especially if you're unsure if the person you're communicating with isn't who they say they are.
Great. Thanks, Marion. How about if someone is the victim of a romance scam, what steps should they take?
The first step is to stop communicating, stop sending money, report that you're a victim to the online dating app or social networking site. where the scammer first approached you and share the profile and any other details that can help prevent others from becoming scams. We can file complaints with the Delaware Department of Justice Fraud and Consumer Protection Division. It's very difficult to get your money back, but we talk with victims and their families all the time to educate them and especially urge victims to stop giving money. We do have situations where we meet with people, we show them that you've been a victim of a romance scam, and they still feel connected and want to give money. So we try our best to educate and convince people to stop continuing to pay the romance scammer.
Thanks, Marion. Yeah, I want to thank Mike, John, and Marion. That was all very informative. And also to our viewers, thank you for spending time with us. We hope that you found us helpful and it empowers you to listen to your senses and not a trolling scammer.